Jealousy in marriage is not necessarily a bad thing. It's natural for you to want to have the attention and affection of your spouse. But how can you tell if it's sinful? Listen up to find out.
Hey guys, welcome back to The Biblical Couple, where we help you walk with God in your marriage. Today we're going to be talking about how can I tell if my jealousy is sinful. And when you look at this title on our YouTube video, you're probably thinking, well, jealousy is usually a bad thing, so why do I need to figure out if it's sinful or not? Well, when we think about Exodus 34:14, how God is a jealous God, he is rightful to have that kind of emotion because it is right for God to have that glory for himself. He is the only one who is all glorious and should receive all worship. But for us humans, most of our jealousy is sinful. So how do we discern whether it is sinful or not? First question to ask yourself is, am I being oversensitive? Am I distorting reality, the things that are actually happening, and distorting them into something that is actually not? And am I assuming the worst about my spouse? And we think about 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4, where it talks about how love is patient and kind. We're not being loving if we're not being patient and kind and not giving the spouse the benefit of the doubt. And another way you can tell if you're being oversensitive is if you're jumping to conclusions. There was this time when we were dating and Sheng was a dance director of this dance crew on the UCSD campus, and there was this one time when he invited me to his dance rehearsal, and at the end of the dance rehearsal there was a dance circle that was happening usually when people start grooving and freestyling. So this girl was called on to come to the center of the circle, and she started freestyling, and then she started going around certain individuals and dancing in front of them. And I didn't know much of the dance culture, but that was kind of the thing to do. But when I saw her go up in front of Sheng and start dancing, I was like, whoa, 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 what is this? What's happening?
And for the record, it wasn't any kind of like sexual dance or anything like that. It was just social and friendly.
Yeah, but I was not used to that. So I was like, I got really jealous and I literally started walking away.
Yeah, I was very concerned because I looked around and Joanna wasn't there anymore and she just took off and started walking in the dark, and I was really concerned for her safety, so I drove off to search for her. Joanna, 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 Joanna. Yep, so that's a case definitely of jumping to conclusions. Thankfully, I was able to find her and she was safe and healthy.
Yes, don't do what I did. And the second question we can ask ourselves is, am I being driven by insecurity? And what I mean by that is, typically wives usually are like thinking about their husband and they see them talking to another woman in the church maybe, or someone even outside of the church, and they're thinking, oh no, that girl is prettier than me. Or maybe conversely on the husband's side, they're like, oh, that man is more handsome. I don't know if they think that.
It's true. It definitely happens.
Yeah, or they're just thinking, oh, that person's more godly. Maybe my spouse will like that person eventually and start cheating on me.
Yeah, even just a few weeks ago, we were talking about what we were encouraged by from our reading, and there was this one section of scripture that was talking about having pure and moral speech. And what I was sharing with her, what I was trying to apply, I knew it was a risky share, but I felt like it was good for our communication and our unity. And I just spoke honestly. I think that the way that I really want to apply this is to make sure that I have an upright and pure heart when I'm talking to fellow sisters in the church, and to not have any sort of immorality or any sort of temptation that lingers, but to really kill that. And so I shared that with Joanna, and it was a good growing experience. Mm-hmm.
It was. I mean, if you were to compare who I was back a few years ago, even just when we first started in our marriage, back then, I would just kind of shut down and not even talk to Sheng about it. But this time around, I immediately went to prayer. The Lord reminded me that I needed to entrust my emotions and our marriage to him and just really, truly trust the Lord.
Yeah, super great. A favorite verse of mine is Psalm 18, 1-2. I love you, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer. So many times, this insecurity and jealousy makes the communication really weak between the spouses, because you could imagine the temptation for me to not want to share this with Joanna because I know that it would devastate her to even think that I'm thinking about other women. But really, in actuality, what I'm doing is I'm expressing an application of scripture. And that's something to rejoice in, right? 1 Corinthians 13, that we're to rejoice in truth. And so where the line of sinful jealousy comes in is where she is being tempted to not think about the joy of me applying scripture or the joy of God working in my life, right? I mean, how much more concerning would it be if like I never talked about sexual immorality or sexual impurity at all, knowing that scripture talks about it so much, and to think that every man and every woman has got to be applying these truths. So really, really important to have that trust in God in the relationship. And if there's insecurity based on not trusting in God, then that's how you know it's sinful.
Surprise, it's Samuel. The third question you can ask yourself is, am I being possessive? And the way you think about this question is if you want the sole attention of your spouse, meaning you are the only person that your spouse can give attention to. Your spouse can't even talk to his mother or else you'll get jealous. That's one of the ways you can see whether or not you are being sinfully jealous, by being possessive.
I actually remember a good example of this in our first year of marriage. I was ready to go and keep serving during our first year of marriage and ready to participate in our Rejoice ministry or teaching opportunities, whatever it was. But when Joanna was asked to do certain service things, I would be thinking to myself, this is our first year of marriage. I'm just getting to be able to know you and really build our marriage foundations. I really want to make sure that your deck is cleared for any sort of time that I could be requesting from you. And so I realized in hindsight, maybe halfway through that year, like, man, I'm being super selfish and super simple right now. Love rejoices in the truth, 1 Corinthians 13, and it does not seek its own. And even just thinking about Ephesians 5, right, that me as a husband, my goal is to love her in a purifying, sanctifying way. The way that I could really show love to her is to help her flourish in her spiritual gifts and in her own ministry to the women of the church and to the church in general. And so that was one way that I was being very possessive and sinfully jealous.
Fourth question, am I sinning in other ways now? So sinful jealousy can result in bitterness, anger, strife, paranoia, cold shoulder, passive aggressiveness, on and on. All of these things really build tension in the marriage, and that's not what God intended it to be.
Exactly. Sin begets more sin. So if you see more sin popping up in your life, then no doubt about it, you know that your jealousy is sinful. The fifth and final question that you can ask yourself is my jealousy unifying? A godly, righteous jealousy is going to be something that unifies and protects the love in the marriage, but a sinful jealousy is only going to cause strife and anger and conflict in the marriage, and it's going to break down that communication. So what you want to ask yourself is my jealousy actually unifying the marriage?
So there you have it, 5 questions that could help you understand whether your jealousy is sinful or not. If this video was helpful to you, we have our marriage fellowship called Rock Solid Marriage Fellowship within our church. If you're interested in coming out, we meet every first and third Sunday of the month from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We would love to have you guys come out, learn about how you can grow in your marriage and have an extraordinary marriage, and also grow in having biblical friendships with your spouse and also with other people in your church or within our local group.
Why don't you guys let us know in the comments below which question was very helpful for you, or talk about what ways do you use to tackle jealousy when you see sinful jealousy coming up in your life. We're actually going to tackle that with a future video, Lord willing, so we will be discussing that, and it'll be fun to see what you guys come up with as well. If you enjoyed today's video and you would like to get more biblical content that helps you walk with God in your marriage, definitely consider subscribing and clicking that like button. Good to see you guys, and hope to see you guys in the next video.
See ya!
Goodbye.